The book of James is one of my favorite books in the Bible because it's all about action. Christians can so often get caught up in theology and debates that we forget to actually live a Christian life. We are far too concerned with knowing all the right answers and doctrines that we forget that Christianity was always supposed to be about doing things. The primary message James wants to get across is that you need to take what you learn in the Bible and do it, not merely being a hearer of the word, but doing it. This is ultimately the essence of wisdom. Wisdom is when you can take what you know and apply it to what you do. It's not just sitting around and reading scrolls all day, growing in knowledge. It's the ability to turn your knowledge into good deeds. One thing you'll find with the book of James is how damning it is to much of what you see in the world today. It completely exposes much of the so-called wisdom that you see around the internet, and James, like Christ himself, is absolutely brutal about it. Some of the hardest punches thrown in the entire Bible come from the book of James. You'll see what I mean soon enough. James also does a really good job of turning all of Christ's teachings into short snippets. Essentially, what you'll find with James is that each passage contains brief summaries of Christ's words. Whether it was on purpose or not is unknown to me, because Christ is the living embodiment of wisdom, so it would make sense that there would be a lot of overlap. So with that said, let's take a look at some of the things James is exhorting us to do, and let's take what we learn and actually do it. I have personally read through James hundreds of times, and I'd encourage you to do the same thing. It's a quick 15-minute read, and the wisdom contained in it will motivate you to love and good works. The author of James is identified as the brother of Jesus. This James is a pretty awesome guy. Church history tells us that he was martyred when the Jews brought him to the pinnacle of the temple where Jesus was tempted by Satan, where they then threw him off and then hurled stones down on him. Tradition tells us that he survived the fall, and while they were throwing stones on him, someone yelled up to them and said, "Stop! He's praying for you." He died doing just what his master did, and there is no doubt that he is in glory because of it. So whatever this guy has to say, let's take it to heart and live by it. He was not a man of mere words only, he was a man of action. So what is the first step to action? First things first, before doing anything, James wants you to ask God for wisdom. He is the source of all wisdom, and he loves pouring it out on his servants. Recall young King Solomon's request. When given the option of anything in the world, he chose wisdom, because wisdom is more valuable than rubies or gold. But be careful when seeking out wisdom from the world. Much of what the world calls wisdom is actually demonic. But how are we supposed to know which is good and which is bad? Well, James says, look at the fruit. If someone claims to be wise, you'll know based on their actions. If they are fueled by envy and selfish ambition, you know that it's worldly and demonic wisdom. True wisdom is from above and is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Don't listen to these gurus online who tell you to focus on yourself and your own desires. It's demonic. God does not want our hearts oriented on what we can get. It should be oriented on what we can do for others. So how do we grow in wisdom? James wastes no time in giving us the answer. Trials and tribulations. Count it as joy when you encounter trials of various times, for you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Trials are good, even though they're generally not fun to go through. Scientists did a study once where they grew trees indoors. No wind or rain or anything else would hit the tree. It was completely sheltered from all the elements. The issue that they kept finding with these indoor trees is that they kept falling down for no reason. Why? Well, their roots were never deep. Trees grow deeper and stronger roots when they are tested and tried by the elements. Without it, there's no growth. They may grow high, but eventually they fall under their own weight because their roots are weak. This is what happens to us. If we are never tried or tested, our faith will be weak and we will fall. The trials make us stronger in order to strengthen us for when things get really tough. Sure, it's unpleasant at the time, but it's much better than falling down in the day of calamity. Do not pray for lighter burdens, pray for stronger shoulders. If you want to be a faithful warrior of Christ, he may have to put you through the ringer in order to get you ready for the real challenges. There are dragons and lions out there that would like nothing more than to devour you. Let Christ strengthen you through trials and prepare you for this war. If you want high levels of wisdom, you need to go through difficult things first. This can be summed up best in this quote. I asked God for strength, and he gave me difficult things to make me strong. I asked for wisdom, and God gave me problems to solve. I asked God for prosperity, and He gave me a brain and brawn to work. I asked for courage, and God gave me dangers to overcome. I asked for love, and God gave me people to help. I received nothing I wanted, but I received everything I needed. James compares those who hear the word but lack action as those who look into a mirror and go away and immediately forget what they look like. This may seem like a weird analogy to some, but it makes sense if you understand that the Bible itself is a mirror. It shows you who you currently are, but also what you could be, whether good or evil. When you read stories in the Bible, a good tip to keep in mind would be to look for yourself in the story. A professor of mine always said, if you read a story in the Bible and you can't figure out how someone could do the things that they did, you just don't get it yet. If you see the Israelites constantly rebelling and making bad decisions, and you can't understand how you yourself would do the same, then you are blind to your own sin in your heart. You are like the man who looks into the mirror and forgets what he looks like. The Bible should expose your sin and drive you to change. This requires humility to admit our own flaws, but humility leads to exaltation before God. Now, James 2 contains a huge elephant in the room for many Christians. There's a massive, seeming contradiction between James and Paul's theology of faith and works. I'll be honest, when I initially planned this explain video, I recorded an 8-minute explanation talking about why James and Paul don't really contradict blah blah blah. But then I realized something. I don't need to do that. If there's interest, I'll release a separate video explaining why they don't contradict, but for this video, I don't want to do that. Remember, James is about action and not sitting in our ivory towers debating theology. So take any of the time that you would have spent debating this topic in the comments and go out and do something good instead. James wants you to be a doer, period. We can say we have faith all day long, we can make sure we have all the perfect theological positions, but if we have no works to back it up, what good is it? Our faith is dead if we have no love for others and those who are in need. Our faith is dead if we have no action. If we have faith, we will have deeds. A good tree with strong faith will produce good works, but a bad tree with bad faith will produce bad fruit. That's why James says, if someone claims to be wise, let them show it by their actions. One of the key pieces of wisdom is keeping a tight rein on your tongue. We should be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to become angry. Self-control is a key piece of wisdom, and lacking it is especially dangerous with our tongues. The tongue has done more damage on earth than anything else. We can hurt people with our words in ways that nothing else can. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words leave emotional scars that last forever. The axe forgets, but the tree remembers. We can ruin our lives by just a few words. The tongue is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body and sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. We can put ourselves in a figurative and literal hell by our words. Watch your tongue because it exposes your heart. Like Jesus says, it's not what goes into a man that defiles him, it's what comes out. Because what comes out is what comes from the heart. Lord, have mercy on us all. We bless God with our tongues and we curse man who is made in his image. How can fresh and salt water flow from the same spring? These statements are so convicting because they expose our hearts. If you are like me and you struggle with evil words and malicious speak, know that these sins come from deep in our hearts, and the only way we can fix that is through God. Repentance daily, hourly, minutely if you have to, in order to overcome your sick heart. James is also expressly concerned with not showing favoritism. If you haven't noticed, humans are great at showing favoritism. We give the wealthy special treatment in our societies and churches because they write the biggest checks. This should not be. God has chosen the despised and the rejected to have the greatest faith, and here we are as Christians giving the wealthy all the special treatment. I think we will all be ashamed when we arrive in heaven and all the highest seats are filled by the poor and the meek and those whom you have never heard of, but God knew their names, and that's all that mattered. If we really kept the royal law of loving our neighbors as ourselves, we would treat all men equally. Any showing of favoritism exposes that we are not following that royal law. It also exposes a deeper issue, that is, friendship to the world. The reason we give special treatment to the wealthy stems from what they might give us in return. This is part of being friends with the world. The world and God are diametrically opposed. If we are friends of God, we must be enemies of the world, and vice versa. If we want to follow God, we will inevitably make enemies with the world because the world's master is Satan. What fellowship can darkness have with the light? When we operate under the lens of God, we will see the world for what it truly is, and our actions will reflect that. We will see the poor as worthy of the same respect as the wealthy, and we will have pity on the helpless. Our love and affections will be in alignment with God. We won't seek after the things the world seeks after. Rather, we will seek after what God seeks after. Wealth will be nothing to us. Worldly wisdom that's plagued with selfish ambition will be seen for what it truly is: demonic. Worldly authorities will have no power over us because we submit to God as the true king. The more we align with God, the more we will oppose evil. Satan, of course, will not like this, but just as James says, resist the devil and draw near to God, and God will draw near to you. A quick question I want to handle in the summary is whether God hates rich people or not. There are many verses in the Bible that seem to indicate that he does, one of which is found here in James 5. It also happens to be one of the most metal verses in the entire Bible. Why does God seem to hate the rich so much? Well, if we're being honest, the easiest way and most common ways to get rich are to take advantage of people. Greed is a root of all kind of evil, and we see what people will do in pursuit of it. Underpaying workers, treating them as less than human, using usury and interest, and overcharging those who buy from you. These methods work for accumulating massive wealth, but it's all at the expense of others. So of course God hates when people do this, but we have to understand that it's not the money itself that God hates. It's the means of which you came to get it. There are many examples of very wealthy people who have hearts for God in the Bible. Abraham and Job immediately come to mind, both extremely wealthy and both wholeheartedly seeking after God. So it's not that God hates wealth for the sake of wealth, but he does hate how much of the wealth is accumulated, and also that the wealthy tend to hoard their wealth for themselves. Rather than having their hand out to the needy, they tend to keep all their wealth for themselves. So I hope this helps in understanding the topic. Just because you have money, it doesn't make you evil. But how you came to obtain that money might. Now, there are a lot of other smaller topics James talks about, and I'd encourage you to read them for yourselves. Spend as much time as you can learning God's word, but don't forget to take what you learn and apply it in your life. That's true wisdom. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe for more just like it. If you want to help out the channel, the best way to do that is to share this video with friends. I'll be working my way through every book of the Bible, and any words of encouragement go a long way. Leave any questions or prayer requests below. Thanks for watching, and have a blessed day.